and I wanted to ask how long or how often does a person need to be in contact with asbestos to have a high risk of developing mesothelioma?
Right, so that's a very good question. So there's two factors there. One is the amount of exposure, right? So if you're in a room like this closed and it's white, pale, white with asbestos, and sometimes we hear that from patients saying, I was working in the Navy and they put me down in some submarine or whatever it was, and we couldn't see each other because it was white, like snowing in there, and you know the exposure is really high. And he says, but I was there for 2 weeks. Well, it doesn't really matter. Now the second is time. So here we go. Now we have something called the epigenetics, which is something that jumps over like a saddle on a horse, right? So the horse is your DNA. The saddle is something that you put on the horse to drive it around. So the epigenetics is something that comes onto the horse and changes the direction that horse is going. So asbestos exposure, the more you have onto the horse, more chances that horse will change its direction. In other words, the more chance the cell will change its direction into cancer. That's one, the amount of asbestos. And the other is prolonged time. For example, someone says, well, really, I wasn't sure because my dad was working in it. He would bring clothes with asbestos. I would clean every weekend or so, whatever it may be, but for 15 years. So then you have that little epigenetic factor jump onto the cell, even though a small amount, throughout a long period of time until a certain amount of time, the cell changes its cycle and goes into cancer cycle. So both the exposure and time are important factors. Which one is more important? In our experience, it's exposure.
Oh.
So I say this because we saw a patient who said, I think I worked in the summertime in a camp in Australia and the bags were full of asbestos, but I was 17, I need some cash, and I did that for 3 weeks. But this is 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Yeah, but there was enough got left in there and made those cells change in a different direction.
Wow.
And that's the fascinating part of it. It's almost like a detective. You have to go back and find the reason for that.
So, Dr. De Silva, is there a ratio of people who are exposed to asbestos versus who come down with mesothelioma and who don't?
Yes, the majority of patients don't. And that is the conflicting. But if you look into lung cancer, 60%, 60, depending where you read, 60% of patients who have lung cancer never smoked. Don't even know what cigarette is. 40% smoked. But if you go around and say, of the patients who have lung cancer, present with lung cancer, what percent of them smoked? 90%. So there we go. And say, well, what's up with mesothelioma? If you go around and say, what percent of patients are exposed to asbestos got mesothelioma, the incidence is going to be lower. But if you go back to the patient who have mesothelioma and say, were you exposed to asbestos? Yes, majority of them will be exposed to asbestos. So it crosses over. I don't know if it made sense to you what I just said. So, in other words, if you've been got 100 patients being exposed to asbestos, about 1–2% of patients will have mesothelioma. But if you say, well, forget about that. Let's see all the patients who had mesothelioma around the world. What percentage of them were exposed to asbestos? 90%. Why is that important? Because that tells you that asbestos, nothing else, there are other components involved with it, but asbestos was the predominant factor to change that cell direction.
Now, are you seeing people from all over the world? You know, because it seems like, you know, this, you know, are they coming or will they come?
So right now, they're coming from Boston, which to me is all the other part of the world. No, I mean, we've got people from Canada coming down here. We have Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, they have what they call unions for pipe fitters and plumbers.
Yeah.
They call locals, LOCAL, locals. And so we send 51 information set to those places and trying to get people to come here because a lot of people don't know there's a program up and running in Chicago. We do get, I mean, the idea that people, someone from Brazil was going to come and see me, and they decided to go for a trial first, which is perfectly fine. And so, yes, I mean, we open for business.
And so people from the locals, whether they're symptomatic or not, come and see you?
No, only when they're symptomatic or someone saw it. So what I'm trying to send, I send to the locals because when the patients, when pipe fitters or plumbers get sick, they have to report their sick to the locals.
Right.
Then the locals, they don't know where to send the patients. They say, well, go to Boston, go to Maryland, go to someplace else, go to Pittsburgh or Philadelphia. Now I'm telling them, you don't have to send them out. I'm in Chicago. You can send them to us.
You brought up a good point at the beginning about patients navigating the system. That's, mesothelioma is a unique disease because I think a lot of people hear about it from all the ads and all that, that's on the TV, but they don't really know what to do about it. So, like you speaking, kind of gives it a face more than anything, but can you speak a little bit about patients navigating the system? Because I don't think a lot of people know how to like get in contact with you, or you know what I mean?
Right. So we've been working. I mean, I've been here since September.
Mm-hmm.
If you take September out because it was one of those months, just move in, and then December was kind of another kind of down month. We've been here for about 6 months now, and I have put a lot of emphasis in contacting different local agencies, Web Connection, Cure for Meso, IMG, the study group for mesothelioma, and let them know that we exist. There's going to be a publication, I think one of the sites for mesothelioma, and we're trying to get support from the media here in Chicago to have either TV or newspaper advertise with patients telling that they had a good experience in our program. So I think when patients go out and try to navigate, there's a lot of misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for the sites that you don't have the input of both nurses and doctors highly involved in treatment and care of mesothelioma, we should exclude them.
Mm-hmm.
The other options, go to sites where people have the most hits and ask the question, what are the places that I can go? One of the sites actually lists universities by location where you can go and get comprehensive mesothelioma care.
Yeah.
So that's a good site, but they don't know it, so they have to select which one's best.
Yeah, I think it must be very confusing for them.
Correct.
Yeah. Now, do you think the United States, is it the United States and Britain? Well, I don't know how aggressive Britain is, but the United States, are they leading in aggressiveness?
Yes. Yeah, so is England. It's England's beginning, I should say the UK, beginning to change a little.
Yeah.
Not much, but a little. And that's mainly because there's a new generations of thoracic surgeons coming up like myself. And we have this very selected group that we exchange information across the pond. And they're beginning to get more aggressive, including in France and Belgium. Switzerland is beginning to do more. So